Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Sectarian clashes escalate in Syria's predominantly Druze region of Sweda a day after ceasefire announcement. Ukraine seeks new round of talks with Russia next week. Zelensky says that the Russian side should stop hiding from the decisions. Japan head to the polls on Sunday in a tightly contested upper house election. Rising prices and immigration concerns threatening to weaken Prime Minister Ishiba's power grip. Dozens dead after tourist boat capsizes in Vietnam due to storm Vifa. The third typhoon to hit the South China Sea this year is projected to make landfall along Vietnam's northern coast early next week. An Astronomer CEO Andy Byron resigns after Coldplay concert. Embrace goes viral. Updates from Syria first. Druze fighters have pushed out rival armed factions from southern city of Sweda on Saturday after the government ordered a ceasefire following a US brokered deal to avert further Israeli military intervention. Syria's security forces have begun deploying in Sweda, where heavy fighting between Druze and Bedouin armed groups and government forces has left hundreds dead. The deployment on Saturday came hours after the United States announced that Israel and Syria have agreed to a ceasefire, a fragile truce amid overnight clashes. Syria's government announced the ceasefire early on Saturday, saying in a statement it is being enacted to spare Syrian blood, preserve the unity of Syrian territory, the safety of its people. Syria's President Ahmed al-Shara, in a televised address, stated that he received international calls to intervene in what is happening in Sweda and restore security to the country. Now, Japanese voters head to the polls on Sunday in a tightly contested upper house election, with rising prices and immigration concerns threatening to weaken Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's grip on power. Voting officially began at 700 local time. Barring certain regions, polling will remain open until 8 p.m. local time. The House of Councillors is made up of 248 members with 6-year terms. Elections are held every 3 years, with half the seats up for grabs each time. Voters are weighing in on a total of 125 seats, including one where a contest is needed to fill a vacancy. Opinion polls suggest Ishiba's Liberal Democratic Party and coalition partner Komieto may fall short of 50 seats needed to retain control of 248-seat upper house of the parliament. Ishiba's administration lost its majority in more powerful lower house in October. The polls show smaller opposition parties pushing for tax cuts and increased public spending are set to gain, among them the right-wing Sancieto, which vows to curb immigration, oppose foreign capital inflows and reverse gender equality moves. After the election, Japan faces a deadline of August 1st to strike a trade deal with the United States or face punishing tariffs in its largest export market. Kiev has proposed to Moscow a new round of fresh talks next week. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Saturday, hours after Russian strikes across Ukraine claimed more lives. 2 rounds of talks in Istanbul between Moscow and Kiev have failed to result in any progress towards a ceasefire, instead yielding large-scale prisoner exchanges and deals to return the bodies of killed soldiers. At talks last month, Russia outlined a list of hardline demands, including calls for Ukraine to cede more territory and to reject all forms of Western military support. Kiev dismissed them as unacceptable and at the time questioned the point of further negotiations if Moscow was not willing to make concessions. The Kremlin said earlier this month it was ready to continue talks with Ukraine after US President Donald Trump gave Russia 50 days to strike a peace deal or face sanctions. Trump also pledged to supply Kiev with new military aid sponsored by NATO allies as its cities suffer ever-increasing Russian aerial attacks. The European Union on Friday agreed on 18th package of sanctions on Moscow that targets Russian banks and lowers a price cap on oil exports in a bid to curb its ability to fund the conflict. Now, Zelensky has reiterated his readiness to have a face-to-face sit-down with Vladimir Putin.
Security Council Secretary Umerov also reported that he had proposed the next meeting with the Russian side for next week. The momentum of the negotiations must be increased. Everything must be done to achieve a ceasefire. And the Russian side must stop hiding from decisions.
Now, in Central Africa, Congo and Rwanda-backed rebels on Saturday signed a declaration of principles in Qatar to end decades-long fighting in eastern Congo. The declaration commits a permanent ceasefire and a comprehensive peace agreement within 1 month. The agreement follows a separate Congolese-Rwandan peace deal signed in Washington last month. It is the first direct commitment by both Congo and the rebels since they seized 2 key cities in eastern Congo in a major advance.
The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda-backed armed group M23 signed a ceasefire deal on Saturday to end fighting that has devastated the country's mineral-rich but conflict-torn east. The truce was agreed in a declaration of principle signed by the two sides after 3 months of talks in the Qatari capital, Doha, which follows a separate Congolese-Rwandan peace deal signed in Washington last month. The agreement says the parties commit to uphold their commitment to a permanent ceasefire, including refraining from hate propaganda and any attempt to seize by force new positions. The deal says the two sides had agreed to implement its terms by July 29th at the latest and to start direct negotiations towards a permanent agreement by August 8th. It also includes a roadmap for restoring state authority in eastern DRC. Congolese government spokesperson Patrick Moyaya said the deal took account of DRC's red lines, including the non-negotiable withdrawal of the M23 from the occupied areas, followed by the deployment of our institutions, including the National Armed Forces. He said a comprehensive peace agreement would follow in the coming days. Qatar's Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Al Khulaifi, and Donald Trump's Special Advisor for Africa and Middle East, Massad Boulous, welcomed the ceasefire deal.
This declaration not only represents a commitment to stop the violence, but also constitutes a pivotal step and a practical roadmap towards national reconciliation. It lays the groundwork for a new phase of partnership among the various components of society in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, including armed movements that have chosen to prioritize the greater national interest. It also opens the way for an effective role for the international community to support peace building efforts and promote sustainable development in conflict affected areas.
We are confident and we are hopeful. As indicated earlier this morning, I had very fruitful discussions this week with both Presidents Tshisekedi and President Kagame, and I really would like to thank them for their full commitment. They have both shown full commitment towards this peace, towards this process, towards ending this conflict peacefully, and towards the prosperity of the region.
The African Union hailed the new deal as a significant development. In a statement, AU chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf said, "This marks a major milestone in the ongoing efforts to achieve lasting peace, security and stability in eastern DRC and the wider Great Lakes region." Backed by neighboring Rwanda, the M23 is the most prominent of more than 100 armed groups fighting for control in Congo's mineral-rich east. It seized vast swaths of mineral-rich territory in eastern DRC and captured the key provincial capitals of Goma and Bukavu in a lightning offensive in January and February this year. Thousands were killed in this offensive. Rich in natural resources, especially lucrative minerals, eastern DRC has been racked by conflict for more than 3 decades, creating a humanitarian crisis and forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes, which the UN called one of the most protracted, complex, serious humanitarian crises on Earth. Raghav Kumar Jha for DD India.
And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva condemned U.S. visa sanctions on Supreme Federal Court judges, including Alexandre de Moraes, involved in the coup case against former President Jair Bolsonaro. Lula called the U.S. move arbitrary and a violation of sovereignty. The U.S. revoked visas for Moraes and allies, citing a political witch hunt against Bolsonaro, who faces trial for allegedly trying to overturn Lula's 2022 election win. Moraes ordered Bolsonaro to wear an electronic monitor and avoid social media. The judge also noted Eduardo Bolsonaro's hostile social media attacks, including calling Moraes a gangster in robes, as escalating illicit conduct amid the ongoing legal battle. And a 29-year-old man named Fernando Ramirez has been charged on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon after deliberately driving into a crowd outside the Vermont Hollywood nightclub early Saturday, injuring 30 people. The incident, deemed intentional by police, followed Ramirez's ejection from the club. Bystanders attacked and shot him. He is in custody post-surgery. Police seek the gunman who fled. 7 victims are in critical condition, 6 in serious. Over 100 firefighters responded. Mayor Karen Bass called it a heartbreaking tragedy, and the club expressed sorrow. The Nissan Versa hit a taco truck and valet stand near Sunset Boulevard, leaving a blood-stained scene. Now, Sri Lanka's National Police Commission has sacked Nilantha Jayawardena, the former head of the State Intelligence Service, for failing to act on warnings before the 2019 Easter Sunday bombings, which killed 279 people, including 45 foreigners. A disciplinary inquiry found him guilty of negligence, ignoring alerts about Islamic extremist attacks 17 days prior to the April 21st suicide bombings targeting hotels and churches. A prior investigation implicated then-President Mathirapala Sirisena and officials, including Jayawardena, for lapses warranting prosecution. The new government, led by President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, pledges to intensify probes into the attacks blamed on a local jihadi group tied to the Islamic State to ensure justice. A tourist boat carrying 53 people capsized on Saturday in Vietnam, following which at least 38 people have died and 8 remain missing. The incident took place in Quang Ninh province of Ha Long Bay, a popular tourist destination in the north of the country. The vessel was carrying 48 passengers and 5 crew members when it capsized in the UNESCO World Heritage Site because of sudden heavy rain. There was no official announcement on the nationality of the tourist, as emergency crews kept looking for survivors. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh sent his condolences to the families of the deceased and called on the Defence and Public Security Ministries to conduct urgent search and rescue. Now, Hong Kong issued a T8 tropical cyclone warning early Sunday as Typhoon Vifa, located 280 kilometers southeast, approached, bringing winds over 63 kilometers an hour. The storm intensifying in the South China Sea, prompting high alerts. Over 250 flights were cancelled, with no departures before noon Sunday per Hong Kong's airport authority. Cathay Pacific Airways cancelled all of its flights arriving or departing Hong Kong airport between 5 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Sunday. It waived ticket change fees and made arrangements for customers to rebook. Schools and daycare centers suspended classes and bus services halted until midday. Heavy rain and thunderstorms are expected, with high seas forecast. In Philippines, Vifa caused flooding, leaving 2 missing. Authorities urged caution as the storm threatens significant disruptions across the region, with travelers advised to expect delays. Now, torrential rains that lashed South Korea for a 5th day on Sunday kept nearly 3,000 people from returning to their homes. Rain is forecast to last until Monday in some areas, as officials urge extreme caution against the risk of landslides and flooding, with warnings issued across most of the country. The downpour started on Wednesday and has resulted in 14 deaths, with 12 people missing, mostly in the southern and central parts of the country. Rainfall since Wednesday reached a record of more than 500 mm at Seosan in the South Chungcheong province, south of Seoul. Shifting focus, the CEO of an American tech company resigned on Saturday after a video of him embracing an alleged colleague at Coldplay concert on Wednesday went viral and fueled relentless memes. Astronomer CEO Byron and company's chief people officer Christine Cabot realized they were being shown on a jumbo screen inside Gillette Stadium as they embraced. Byron ducked out of sight and Cabot covered her face with her hands and spun around. Internet sleuths immediately went to work and identified Byron and Cabot by their social media profiles before the company confirmed their identities. The video has garnered millions of views on TikTok and other social media, giving rise to memes discussing everything from the folly of having an affair at a Coldplay concert to the hypocrisy of an HR representative seemingly caught in a workplace relationship. Now, the Paris Metro celebrated its 125th anniversary on Saturday, marking the inauguration of Line 1 in 1900 during the World's Fair. The iconic transit system, a global symbol with its Art Nouveau entrances, hosted a commemorative event at Port Mayo Station attended by RHEP CEO Jean Castex. The metro, spanning 245.6 kilometers with 321 stations, is undergoing modernization with driverless trains and platform screen doors, aiming to double in size by 2031 via the Grand Paris Express. The celebration highlighted its cultural and historical significance, with Line 1's driverless trains serving landmarks like the Louvre and Arc de Triomphe. We are slipping into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. The free trade agreement between India and the European Free Trade Association to come into force from October 1st. Government calls all-party meeting ahead of the monsoon session of the Parliament. And in cricket, India lose to England by 8 wickets in rain-marred match at Lord's. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. An update just coming in on the top story that we are tracking on DD India Live. In Syria, tribal fighters have been evacuated from southern city of Sweda and violent clashes have ceased. Country's Interior Ministry said late Saturday, after intensive efforts by the Ministry of Interior to implement the ceasefire agreement following the deployment of its forces in the northern and western regions of Sweda Governorate, the city of Sweda was evacuated of all tribal fighters and clashes within the city's neighborhoods were halted. Earlier on Saturday, Rus fighters pushed out rival armed factions from Sweda after the government ordered a ceasefire following a US broker deal to avert further Israeli military intervention. Security forces were deployed in the conflict region, where heavy fighting between Druze and Bedouin armed groups and government forces has left hundreds dead so far. Moving on, the free trade agreement between India and the European Free Trade Association will come into force from October 1st. India and the four-nation European bloc EFTA signed the Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement on March 10, 2024. Under the pact, India has received an investment commitment of $100 billion in 15 years from the grouping, while allowing several products at lower or zero duties. The European Free Trade Association members are Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. The bloc has committed an investment of $100 billion, $50 billion within 10 years after the implementation of the agreement, and another $50 billion in the next 5 years, which would facilitate the creation of 1 million direct jobs in India.
all the 4 countries have ratified the FTA, lodged their documents with the repository, which was Norway, and from 1st October, EFTA will come into effect. And they are taking it seriously. They are continuously looking at India as an investment destination.
Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar reiterated India's stand on terrorism. Addressing the officer trainees of India Defence Estate Service 2024 batch at the Vice President's enclave on Saturday, Vice President Dhankar said that 22nd April was the day when India's soul was challenged. India has always stood for inclusivity that was sought to be shredded and trashed by the perpetrators of crime, the terrorists from across the border. India always stood for peace, harmony, but would not spare the terrorist.
22nd April was a day when India's soul was challenged. Bharat has always stood for inclusivity. That was sought to be shredded and thrashed by perpetrators of crime, the terrorists from across the border. But what is more remarkable, boys and girls, is that India's culture all through has been that issues have to be determined by diplomacy and dialogue. There is no room for terrorism in the world. We have advocated throughout zero tolerance for terrorism.
And the Indian government has called an all-party meeting ahead of the monsoon session of the parliament beginning on Monday. During the meeting, the government sought cooperation from all the political parties to ensure smooth functioning of both the houses of the parliament. The monsoon session, which will be held from the 21st of this month, will continue till the 21st of August. During this session, there will be a total of 21 sittings of both houses. Talking to the media, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju said that the government is ready to discuss important issues to be raised in Parliament. And the advisory requiring the lowering of window shades during aircraft operations at Indian Air Force joint user airports has been withdrawn. However, the ban on aerial and ground photography at these airports remain in effect. In a statement, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation emphasized on Saturday that the prohibition on aerial and ground photography continues to apply to all aircraft operations at Indian Air Force joint user airports. Earlier this month, the DGCA took a significant step to raise the standards of pilot training in India. On July 9, the aviation regulator formally launched a national ranking framework for flying training organizations with the aim of improving transparency, consistency and performance across the sector. The initiative aims to ensure standardization, safety and accountability in India's aviation training sector. The ranking system will be implemented as of October 1st, 2025, and rankings will be published twice a year on April 1st and October 1st to provide timely and updated evaluations of FTO performance. Weather updates now. Delhi is witnessing as in Sunday morning. The India Met Department recorded scattered showers across the national capital on Friday, which kept daytime temperatures below the seasonal average. The city will witness grey skies with intermittent rainfall until at least July 25. While no weather warnings have been issued, humidity levels are expected to rise owing to limited rainfall. Uttar Pradesh bore the brunt of monsoon fury as rain-related incidents claimed 18 lives, with the IMD issuing alerts for heavy rain in Himachal Pradesh, West Bengal and Kerala. While torrential rain caused a flood-like situation in parts of Rajasthan, heavy rainfall and landslides in some areas of Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim affected normal life. Also in Uttarakhand, a red alert for heavy rainfall on Sunday in parts of the Kumaon region has been issued by the Met Department. Sports updates now. We'll start with cricket. England's women's cricket team defeated India by 8 wickets in the rain-affected second ODI at the iconic Lord's Cricket Ground. After a disappointing loss in the first ODI, England women's cricket team bounced back in style to level the series 1-1. The match was reduced to 29 overs per side due to rain. Batting first, India managed to put just 143 on the board. England were close to chasing the target, but rain poured down again and then the target was reduced to 115 in 24. England chased the target in 21 overs with opener Amy Jones scoring unbeaten 46. The third game will be played at Chesterley Street on Tuesday. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile application. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.